Okay, this is just a quick video explaining the Stickleback natural selection symbiotic study. So this is a really popular example of natural selection because it's something that happened recently and it's something that happened really quickly. And there's empirical evidence. There's evidence that we can actually see and patterns that we can see that show how a population changes with an environmental pressure. So the variations that we're looking at that you guys saw in the video, these sticklebacks are either freshwater or marine, meaning they come from the ocean. But the specific variation that was investigated was the number of plates, or the amount of body armor. So there were low number of plates, meaning low body armor, and high number of plates, meaning high body armor. So the population before the 1980s, they were only low armored, meaning low number of plates, sticklebacks, and these were the freshwater sticklebacks in that lake. The traumatic event that happened in October of 1982, the Department of Fish and Game in Alaska poisoned this lake and killed all of the freshwater sticklebacks in that lake. 8 years later, when researchers came back, they noticed that the population was now made of high-armored sticklebacks from the ocean. So there are little tiny channels that connected this lake to the ocean, and then the high-armored sticklebacks from a marine environment from the ocean colonized the lake. And then in 1991, the majority of the population, about 75% of the population, were now low-armored sticklebacks. So went back to being low-armored sticklebacks. And this is because they were able to survive and reproduce better. Natural selection was favoring the sticklebacks with low armor. But why? Why did they go back from being high-armored sticklebacks to low-armored sticklebacks? And that's because of the selective pressure. So selective pressure is something that drives natural selection in an environment. Without a selective pressure, the species are not going to change. If nothing's pressuring them to change, they will remain the same. And the pressure here in this example was the dragonfly larvae. So predation here, right here. Overall, the predation from the dragonfly larvae is the selective pressure because it is what's driving natural selection in this population. So a little bit more explanation here. There were no natural predators in the lake for the adult sticklebacks, so the armor was not needed. They did not need the spines and they did not need the high number of plates. So that's one reason. Also, predation by dragonfly larvae preyed more on, the dragonfly larvae preyed more on the small sticklebacks with the heavy armor because they were slower to flee from the dragonfly larvae when they were tiny. Also, sticklebacks with low armor develop faster, so those sticklebacks have less time for the dragonfly larvae to feed on them. So ultimately, it's the dragonfly larvae that's the selective pressure driving this change in the population. All right, and then these are very important. So these are our requirements for natural selection to occur. So 1, the traits have to be heritable, meaning they're passed down from parent to offspring. 2, more offspring are produced than can survive. This is called the struggle for existence. So some of the babies got to die, right? Some of the adults have to die as well. Number 3, there has to be variation in the population. The population can't look the same. If the population is consistent and they look the same and they have the same traits for everything, natural selection isn't going to occur because they're all the same. So if something like dragonfly larvae, that environmental pressure happens, all of them will die. None of them will survive. And then the 4th one, the genetic traits in the population have to make them more fit. This is called survival of the fittest, meaning not all traits make an organism more fit. The traits that make individuals more fit will increase their chances to survive. So just like in this example, the sticklebacks with low armor, they were able to develop more quickly and they were able to escape the dragonfly larvae, the dragonfly nymphs, and were able to move on to adulthood and then eventually reproduce and pass on their traits. So this table, and this is almost exactly what you're going to have to do in the summative. Here's our requirements for natural selection. All you have to do is just describe in this example how that requirement was met. So the first one, heritable. The sticklebacks pass down their traits for armor through reproduction, and this trait is genetic. So low-armored sticklebacks will have more low-armored stickleback babies. High-armored sticklebacks will have more high-armored stickleback babies. It's genetic. It's passed down. More offspring are produced than can survive. So the low armor sticklebacks produced quickly and also developed more quickly. Some of the young sticklebacks will die. Predation is causing them to die. The variation, so there's the size variation, the variation by armor, color variation. Again, we looked at the variation in armor. So there's either high or low number of plates, high or low armor. And then the last one, the high armor didn't help the sticklebacks be more fit. The low armor trait did. It helped them survive longer. It helped them escape from the dragonfly larvae. It helped them avoid predation. So that means they're able to survive to adulthood and then eventually pass on their genes to the next generation. All right, I hope this video helped. Let me know if you have questions.